You can go to Athlon Sports and check out the spring preview for Arkansas and probably everybody else in college football as well. Ryan Wright wrote the Arkansas spring preview, and he's with us now here on Ruskin and Zach. Hey, Ryan, good afternoon.
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
Well, we're doing good. We appreciate the time. So this broad strokes here on the Arkansas football. As you look at this spring, what do they need to accomplish coming out of spring going into next season here?
I think more than anything, it would be consistency at quarterback. That would be the biggest thing. It looks like they have a lot of different individual pieces coming back where that offense could be really good. Strong offensive line, some playmakers at running back, Mike Woods, Traylon Burks at receiver. I think that Kearns and Hudson Henry could have great years. But I think it all really kind of ends and begins at quarterback, and if KJ Jefferson can be that guy.
Sometimes we get a little too close to this situation. I mean, we cover these guys day in, day out, but from the outside, when you saw Felipe Franks sort of stabilize this offense last year, and they kind of got into what Kendall Briles wanted to do, but now with KJ Jefferson, you've got a guy with a better skill set suited to do what Kendall Briles wants to do. I mean, is that what you're seeing, that Kendall Briles now has the weapons that he needs to make this thing go?
We hope, yeah. I mean, I think it all begins with the offensive line. We all know in the SEC you have to have great trench play to be able to win games. I know that offensive line, some of it was Felipe Franks maybe not knowing the offense at different times, but they gave up 34 sacks in those 10 games and maybe didn't rush the ball they wanted to. Rakeem Boyd being hurt, I think hurt a lot. And Traylon Smith, ran his butt off and did a great job. But I think if they can inch up towards that 4.5 yard per carry mark, and maybe KJ Jefferson can be that guy. I mean, I remember one great run, at least, that he had against Missouri. I know he had quite a few yards on the ground. KJ Jefferson did against them. So that will help, having a running quarterback.
Yeah, and it's also something that it's really hard to get an idea about that in practice because, it's nobody hits the quarterback. They blow a play dead too early to protect him, whatever. That's something that when you've got that element, you can't really judge if it's good or not good until you get to games.
Yeah, right. I mean, for them, so with Briles, with the offense, going back to kind of what you were asking before, it's there's so much more with a tempo, a rhythm, and timing. So they have to do the mash, the read, and then the throw. And again, Franks, as you said, stabilized everything. So can KJ Jefferson get that rhythm, that flow, and progress upon that? And it seems from what I've read from the pressers, what I've seen, is that maybe he's just not quite doing that yet. And I'm not sure what's going on, but it's only going to get worse, right, whenever the season comes around and you get live action. So if he starts to panic or feel rushed, if he doesn't feel that he can trust his offensive line, then what happens? Are we just going to see him take a bunch of sacks? Is he going to run each time? Is he going to start forcing throws? All these things hopefully will get settled in the next couple of weeks in practice before we get into the season.
In the piece you wrote, you outlined the top five storylines. And number one on your list was depth at running back. Last year at this time, you had Rakeem Boyd, you had Traylon Smith. You felt like you had a pretty good running back room. Not so much this year. You got Traylon Smith and a bunch of guys that really haven't had Division I carries yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think we've all waited for TJ Hammond to kind of maybe for it to click, and hopefully it will, because he's always had the athleticism. I know he had a big run in the scrimmage on Saturday. In the past, it may be a little bit about the playbook, not picking up pass protection, helping the quarterback out. Rocket Sanders, as soon as he can pick up the playbook, I think he's somebody that's going to do great. Out of the 2021 recruiting class, Javion Hunt and A.J. Green, both of them have a lot of promise. Can't put a whole lot on the freshmen, but maybe these guys can come in and provide that relief. And certainly Smith played above and beyond his size, but in a 12-game schedule, again, I don't know that they can count on him to do what he did in 2020.
We're talking with Ryan Wright from Athlon Sports here on Ruskin and Zach. What do you make of this? Because there's a balance here when you play tempo, because as we saw last year with Arkansas a few times, you go 3 and out in 30 seconds off the game clock. That's not really helping anybody except your opponent. But there were times when the offense was singing along pretty good when they got that pace going. And sometimes there was a little bit of friction, it seemed like, between Pittman and Briles about the offense going off the field after 35 seconds. That's a difficult situation to manage if you're not going to score on every drive, because you can't put the defense in a position like that.
I agree with you 100%, especially with the defensive line that they had last year. I know they tried to rotate. There was some COVID stuff where not everybody was able to play. Those guys played their butts off, but come fourth quarter, they were tired. And a lot has been talked about what changes will be made, getting the pass rush. But one goes into the other, where those guys get wore out on defense come the fourth quarter, second half, and what do you do? There's a lot of things with Briles last year. I didn't quite understand what he was doing, where maybe he'd run a reverse and bring the ball back towards the defense. And like you said, there was a lot of 3 and outs. And there's just so much speed in the SEC, and I don't know with him making that transition in the SEC, if you see or if he sees that some of these plays you can't do. You just can't. It's just too fast. Maybe at other stops he was able to get away with it, but I think that there has to be hopefully a difference in the play calling that comes up, that where if they can go onto the field and they can execute 10 to 20 plays without any problems and then build upon that, and again, not have a lot of trick plays. I know the offensive line is bigger. Hopefully that means these guys can start controlling the clock by running the ball. And again, going back to what we already talked about, if KJ Jefferson can run the ball and move those chains. But that's going to be a big thing. And I know Franks wasn't quite the runner that they thought they had maybe from his Florida days before the injury. But, it's going to be interesting to see how the play calling changes, especially for – yeah, go ahead.
We were all sort of amazed at what Barry Odom was able to do, especially early in the year last year when they got off to the 3-3 start, and the defense just seemed to be playing 2 steps ahead of the offenses that they were facing. One of the big glaring issues was they only had 14 sacks last year, and most of those were not from the defensive line. This pass rush has got to improve if they're going to continue to do this. You've got a year's worth of tape on what Barry Odom likes to do. There's only so much that you can sort of mask the fact that you can't get a pass rush.
Yeah, I agree totally. The oddity is they had almost as many picks as they did sacks. You don't see that too often. So I know they've talked about bringing the ends out a little bit more, maybe not so much straight up as a 5-tech to try to get a little more pressure inside. But it's still, I don't recall that they really got that pass rusher in this 2021 recruiting class. So they're going to have to go with what they have, and it's still going to be linebacker blitzes and safety blitzes. It's going to take something to disguise what they're doing. It's going to take Odom time with recruiting. That's just, in a 3-man, if you have a nose guard that can get that push, which is really hard to do, it's just going to be something where I think fans are going to have to live with that again.
Talking with Ryan Wright from Athlon Sports here on Ruskin and Zach. What excites you about this the potential with this team in 2021?
Well, again, if KJ Jefferson can start clicking, and I know they're putting pressure on him to kind of live up, and he did really well against Missouri. I just recall, I think 10 of those completions were all to Treylon Burks. If he can start spreading the ball around, I know Mike Woods is up and coming. If they can get a third receiver to relieve some pressure off Burks, again, start working, get Kearns and Hudson Henry in there. And this offensive line is bigger. I think they had a couple of guys that were starters that were under 300 pounds last year. You have experience back. That excites me, that offensive line, their potential, what they could do. Looking at the rest of the talent in the SEC, LSU is going to be tough. Bama's defense is going to be tough. I don't know about their offense. A&M's defense to be tough. I don't know about their offense. Mississippi State, their defense I don't know about, and Ole Miss, their defense I don't know about. So there's some winnable games. Auburn's an unknown with their new head coach. So, there's going to be a couple of games where I think within their division that they can do really well, assuming that they can improve upon everything. Again, for the offense, it's going to come back to the play calling with Briles and where he can get KJ Jefferson.
One of the things you highlighted in your piece was special teams, and I hate to say this, but they were actually better last year than they were the year before. They weren't on the not top 10 plays in 2020, which was a huge step, but they still weren't very good. This has got to improve. They were giving up huge returns almost every week. I mean, there were just gaffes each and every week.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but they weren't doing anything in return to get those game-changing momentum plays. I think that so they maybe had like 4 returns. It's been a while since I wrote it, but four returns for 18 yards on punts. Taking kicks back wasn't much better. I think they were doubled in return yards on that. I don't know if it's the philosophy coming down from Sam Pittman, just don't turn the ball over. We'll take the ball wherever we get it. But there's that spark that we used to get from Dennis Johnson, returning kicks, if it was Joe Adams returning punts, that were game-changing plays that we all remember as Arkansas fans watching them. And there just hasn't been that in a long time. And like you said, more time and attention to detail on kickoff, on punt. It all needs to be stepped up. And even, I know their punter did well, Reed Bauer. But they need more from their kicker, from AJ Reed. I think he only hit 1 over 40 all year. So when you get kind of close to the red zone and you don't have somebody that you can rely on to get those 3 points, it puts the offense in a position where you have to take risk or gambles, maybe go for it on 4th down when you don't really want to, or in the red zone, getting close to it because you can't trust your kicker.
No. All right, you can read the piece on Athlon Sports. Ryan Wright looking ahead at Arkansas and what they need to get done here during the spring. Ryan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, Ryan Wright from Athlon Sports, our guest here on Ruskin and Zach.